Principle 1. The organization demonstrates a commitment to integrity and ethical values. What does this mean? It means that people in the broader organization are likely to follow the same path and develop same attitudes about right and wrong and about risks and controls as those shown by management. Individual behavior is often influenced by the knowledge that the chief executive officer has behaved ethically when faced with a tough business-based or personal decision, and that all managers have taken timely action to address misconduct. There are 4 points of focus which elaborate Principle 1. First and foremost, the leadership should set the tone at the top. Tone at the top. It's the board of directors and the management at all levels of the entity that lead from the front and show from their actions and words that how important integrity and ethical values are. Second, the senior leadership should clearly establishes standards of conduct. Everyone should be clear what integrity and ethics mean and what is expected from them, including outsourced service providers and business partners. Do you think people in that testing center were clear as to what is expected of them? Were they really aware? Third, the adherence to established standards should be evaluated. And last, any deviations should be addressed in a timely and consistent fashion. If the staff at the testing center had the confidence in the evaluation and response of their actions, do you think their actions would have been different? I think so. Principle 2. The board of directors demonstrates independence from management and exercises oversight of the development and performance of internal control. Principle 2 has 4 points of focus. First, that overall responsibility of oversight is of BOD. Second, the BOD should ensure that it has among its members necessary expertise and skills which are needed by nosedive. That's to ensure that it can guide the management and ask probing questions from management. How else they will be able to keep proper oversight if they themselves wouldn't have the knowledge and background? Third, they should, by majority, be independent from the management. You're very well aware of the concept of independence. That applies to them as well, so their judgment is not clouded by any means. Fourth, they should review and provide oversight whether the system of internal control has been designed, implemented, and conducted in an effective manner. Later, we will discuss what is needed for the internal control system to be effective. This includes both the control setup as well as risk management. Principle 3. Management establishes, with board oversight, structures, reporting lines, and appropriate authorities and responsibilities in the pursuit of objectives. Principle 3 highlights 3 focus points. First, management, together with BOD's oversight, should consider all structure of the entity, including operating units, legal entities, geographic distribution, and outsourced service providers to support the achievement of objectives. Note that it's management's responsibility to establish suitable structures. Second, management designs and evaluates lines of reporting for each entity structure to enable execution of authorities and responsibilities and flow of information to manage the activities of the entity. And third, that management defines, assigns, and limits authorities and responsibilities. Management and the board of directors delegate authority, define responsibilities, and use appropriate processes and technology to assign responsibility and segregate duties as necessary at the various levels of the organization, such as Board of Directors. They retain authority over significant decisions and reviews management's assignments and limitations of authorities and responsibilities. Senior management, it establishes directives, guidance, and control to enable middle management and other personnel to understand and carry out their internal control responsibilities. And then the middle management, which guides and facilitates the execution of senior management directives within the entity and its subunits. And then the personnel, who understand the entity's standard of conduct, assessed risks to objectives, and the related control activities at their respective levels of the entity, the expected information and communication flow, and monitoring activities relevant to their achievement of objectives. And last but not the least, outsourced service providers need to adhere to management's definition of the scope of authority and responsibility for all non-employees. Principle 4. The organization demonstrates a commitment to attract, develop, and retain competent individuals in alignment with objectives. Principle 4 is a reflection of the whole organization, but it is still the responsibility of the BOD and the senior management. It highlights that the organization should establish policies and practices which reflect expectations of competence necessary to support the achievement of objectives, and that it should evaluate competence and addresses shortcomings. Further, it should attract, develop, and retain individuals and outsource service providers who are competent to support the achievement of objectives by mentoring and training. And last, it should continuously plan and prepare for succession and develop contingency plans for assignments of responsibility important for internal control. Principle 5. The organization holds individuals accountable for their internal control responsibilities in the pursuit of objectives. Principle 5 is one of the most critical pillars of a healthy control environment. It's all about accountability. It requires that accountability should be enforced through appropriate structures, mechanisms, authorities, and responsibilities, and these structures should be communicated clearly to individuals who are accountable for performance of internal control responsibilities across the organization and who are responsible to implement corrective actions as necessary. Management and the board of directors should also establish performance measures, incentives, and other appropriate rewards for responsibilities at all levels of the entity, reflecting appropriate dimensions of performance and expected standards of conduct, together with considering the achievement of both short-term and long-term objectives. And these should be evaluated regularly so that they stay relevant and current. Management and the board should also ensure that there are no excessive pressures associated with the achievement of objectives as they assign responsibilities, develop performance measures, and evaluate performance. We will see that this is one of the most important aspects of our fraud risk assessment. If you have undue pressures in the organization, that pressure can lead to fraud perpetrations. So, after going through all the 5 principles, what would you recommend to the Nosedive's board and management, specifically to Vijay and Robredo, to consider while they are considering to set up an effective control environment to gain reasonable assurance that the objectives Nosedive has set will be achieved? In the next lesson, we will discuss the second component of the framework and its related principles. Stay tuned for risk assessment.